Hey, what's going on, guys? Nice to see you back, crewmate. And today I have, I guess, a nice, hot, fresh meme deck for you today, which involves the Smile Fruit event card from set one, which is an uncommon that you probably have like a million copies of in shoebox at this point after cracking open all that fresh product. So we went ahead and took this troll meme deck to locals, nice 4 round locals, and we went undefeated. I don't know really how, it just kind of happens that way sometimes. Was not expecting to do that well. But it always feels nice when you go in with a meme deck and you do way better than you expected. So, our 4 rounds before I get into the profile, we had a round one against Zoro. We had a round two against Doflamingo. We had a round three against Zoro. And our last round was against Green Kid, which is an awful, awful fight uphill, 100% away. We were able to take that because when your entire deck revolves around 4K vanillas, beating an 8 drop kid is a nightmare. So you have to play that in a very specific way. Not a very good time. But we were able to take it in the end anyway and secure that first place slot with Kyle. So I hope you enjoy the video, and thanks for all the support, guys. Alrighty, hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another deck profile. This past weekend, I went to my little local shop and I wanted to play another Crocodile deck because this is one of my favorite leaders from set 100%. And I was able to get the nice alt art one, so looks amazing. But what I did was I took a very fun, like, Mimi deck. And it is a deck based around the Smile event card. And I'm going to go ahead and share that profile with you today. So, for those of you who don't know, this is the blue-purple Crocodile leader. And his effect is very good in card advantage, with a Dawn under him once per turn during either player's turn. When you activate an event, if you have 4 or less cards in your hand, you get to draw a card. And since the Smile Fruit card is an event, you can take advantage of Crocodile's ability every time you activate the Smile Fruit card, which is what we're trying to do. So I'm going to change up the order of my normal deck profiles and go into the Smile engine first so we can understand that. It's actually 20 cards, so it's almost half the deck in order to make the deck even work. So I'll go ahead and put Crocodile over here. Just put him down here so you can look at that face. So 4 copies of the Smile event. So this is the main theme of the deck. You want to play this card multiple times throughout the game so that you can draw a card every time off of your Crocodile and gain advantage that way. What the Smile Fruit card does is you get to look at the top 5 cards of your deck and play a Smile type character card with a cost of 3 or less from those 5 cards, and then you place the rest on the bottom in any order. So here is the theory behind the deck. So you pay 2 to activate the Smile, you get a target off the top 5 that plays to field, and then you draw 1 card. So this card replaces itself with the character you played, and then you get a free card off of the Crocodile skill. So every time you play a McNugget, because they're all really tiny creatures, it doesn't matter really what happens to them because they were already paid for. So that is the main theme of the deck is to get this card, and then you recruit your board off of this card while gaining value off of the leader. But before we go any further, go ahead and show some support for the deck profile. Give a like, subscribe if you haven't, tell your friends about it, and maybe we can get the channel a little bigger. We're doing pretty good. I really appreciate all the support on the videos so far, even though I don't really upload that often because it is a side thing. Other than that, I'm going to show you the targets. There's 12 of them. So we have 4 copies of Hold'em. So this is probably the best target. He's a 3-drop, he's 4K, he has guard. On KO, you get to ramp rested. So you add a Dawn from your Dawn deck, rested. He is the best target because the other 2 are actually vanillas. He's decently statted at 4 cost, so he only needs 1 Dawn to attack for 5. And That's all he does. So they're not amazing cards, but they're free, so that's kind of where the value comes from. The next best target is Sheepshead, which is my boy. He's from the purple starter deck, and he's a 2 cost with 4K vanilla. He's the second best target because he has 4K. So with 1 Dawn, he can start attacking. And then the last target I play is 4 copies of Speedle. So Speed is not a very great card. She's only 3K. It's really hard to attack with her because you need 2 Dawn for it. She's a vanilla. I played this one because she's a trigger on play. It comes up sometimes, but not really. You only have 4 life, and you don't even, because of the way Crocodile plays, you don't really want to take damage early, even mid. You want to not even take any damage till late game anyway. So the trigger's almost irrelevant. But the other 2 targets for Smile are even worse. So the other 2 targets are Bao Huang, who is the 2-drop 3K that on play look at 2 random cards in your opponent's hand and put them back. And then the 1-drop from the purple starter deck, which is Jin Rummy, who is just a 1-drop 3K. So I just went for the speed because she's also 3K and she's a trigger, so she can have extra value. But yeah, they're all really tiny. But because they're all free, essentially, because you're going to plus a card every time you resolve it, they end up being just kind of like annoying pokes at your opponent that, they still have to deal with, and when they do, you don't care, because just like they are in the manga, they're all replaceable. So that is 12 targets. So for the most part, you actually hit the Smile proof very, very consistently. I don't whiff on the effect very often with 12, so I think 12 is a good number. The other ones are so bad anyway. Even if you played more copies to hit more often, you'd be hitting bad targets anyway. So you still, so just so you know, if you do whiff, so if you don't get a target with this, you still draw off the Crocodile, so you're not losing cards. So it's actually okay. And the last card we play is for Orochi, because his effect actually gets resolved. On play, you get to go into your deck and actually just hard search the Smile Fruit from your deck to your hand. So you actually get to play 8 copies of the Smile Fruit. So it's relatively consistent, to be sure, especially in, the game right now where there's not a lot of search effects. There's 2 hard searches. I'm not talking about check top 5. This is a hard search. So getting to this card is very easy. Plus, he is actually your 2K counter, and thankfully that's very relevant because of how many cards it takes to build the main core of the deck. You actually would have trouble fitting in more 2K counters. So it's really nice that he's the 2K. So you get to actually have your your 8 2K counters, 8 to 9, which is a good number for 2Ks. To me, I like around that number. And because we play a certain event later, you can actually reuse this card, which is why I play that event specifically. So that is the whole Smile package. So these are the 20 cards in the deck that revolve around this event. So then the rest is just good cards to help facilitate, actually winning the game and stuff, because you can't straight up win off your little weenie guys, but they can, really annoy the opponent and get in some nice pokes. So now we're going to go into the early plays. So 4 copies of Perona. Perona is really nice in this deck because it lets you sculpt your deck so that you can not only get to your Smile Fruit and put it on the top so you can draw it for next turn, but she also lets you check the other 4 cards to see if there's a target for the Smile Fruit. So that's actually kind of one of the nice things, especially in the early game. When you play her down on turn 1, you check top 5, and what you're hoping to see is actually a copy of Smile Fruit to put on the top, and then a target in the other 4 cards. And if you do, you have a nice turn 2 play where you get to play the Smile Fruit, play the guy, and draw a card. So Perona's very nice in the deck. She's not bad late game because she helps you get to your other events that you want to see later game, like your Level Beams and stuff. And because we're playing Overheat later on in the deck, I'll explain it to you, you can get extra value off of the Perona as well. And then we have the 4 blocker. So 1-drop blocker. I don't feel you should play any less than 4 of this in any deck that can play it. It's just so easy to put out. and they're just so useful at all points in the game. Like, yeah, they're easy to remove, but your opponent needs to remove them, and if they don't, this is a negate attack. You just get to block something. Not much to say about it. You can't recycle it like you can in other blue decks, but it's still really good. So we have 4 copies of Alvida. So Alvida is our other 2K counter, but I've said it before, do not sleep on her effect. Her effect with a Dawn under her, when attacking, you get to trash a card from your hand to return a 3 cost or less to the owner's hand. So if you're going second and you're at 2 Dawn, you might consider playing down this Alvida because it actually puts pressure on the opponent. Not in an offensive way, but in a defensive way that lets you kind of, I guess, stall them out a bit. Because if they play one of their 3 drops, you can bounce it back to their hand and make them play it again on the next turn, which slows the game down a bit and lets you get more Dawn, which allows you to do more plays and be able to actually play cards and play events, which is where this deck kind of is lacking, I guess, in the early points of the game, because you can't commit to board and give him a Dawn and have Dawn up for an event. It's impossible. So slowing the game down is important. So don't forget that she is a pretty good effect actually for an early play as a 2 cost. Mid to late game she's awful. You would never play her, but that's when she has 2K guard, so it's perfectly fine. But early game she's actually very annoying for the opponent sometimes. And probably the best card in the deck period if you're playing Crocodile is Miss All Sunday. This card is kind of absurd in what she does, and the only way to resolve her effect is by playing Crocodile, because you need a Baroque Works type leader. And the only 2 are Blue Purple Crocodile, and then Blue Crocodile from the starter deck. So she is a blocker that on KO, doesn't matter if she blocks or not, you get any event from your trash to your hand. So she doesn't say Baroque Works, she doesn't say blue. So yes, we can get back the Smile Fruit, which is really nice because you kind of want to play this as much as you can early game, so you can get your board kind of wide with a bunch of little weenies, and then later on in the game you kind of stop playing this card, and then you switch over to your defensive events, which is really nice. You can't say this card isn't a 4 of it. It has to be. It's just an incredible card. She looks good. She is good. I would never play less than 4 of this in a Blue Purple Crocodile deck. It's impossible. Playing 2 copies of Dofi. I wanted a couple more blockers. This is the last blocker in the deck. I don't play Queen in this deck only because he's a fantastic card. I only don't play him because it's a 5 Dawn commitment. And you need Dawn every turn for these guys because they're so small, especially Speed. Sometimes you have to wait 2 turns after playing Speed just so she can attack for 5, because you just can't give her the 2 Dawn. So you need a section of Dawn every turn for your attackers, then you need a Dawn for Crocodile, then you need Dawn for your events. So you can't just pop down a Queen and still play like you can in the other versions of this deck, because you need so many Dawn just for your little guys to attack. So I went with Dofi because he's 4K blocker, so he can block Shanks. He doesn't get popped by Robin and Red immediately. They still have to, if they want to, they still have to lower him in order for Robin to pop. And then just like Perona, he lets you check top 5 and rearrange them, so you can try and sculpt the next few turns if you're looking for something specific. The next card in the deck is completely interchangeable. I just play 1 copy of Mihawk because it's another 2K counter. This could easily be another event. It could easily be another, blocker or something. I just wanted another 2K. This deck isn't solved or anything. I'm still messing around with it, but I played this, so it's still in the deck right now. Could easily come out for another event because I'm not actually playing a million defensive events, and that could be an issue. So something to think about. This is definitely a slot you can mess with. Playing 4 copies of Babanuki. So Babanuki's more of, he's kind of, I guess you could say it's a meme card, but it's serious at the same time. So the main reason I wanted to play him was because he's a Smile character. Because there's other characters that can fulfill the same role as him, that have the 7K stat line, but he's a Smile character, so I wanted to play him. But when it comes to the vanilla 7Ks, I really enjoy them. They have guard, and you can just slap this down on turn 3 going first, and you just have a 7K body. And 7K bodies are really important in this deck because all your little smile guys are terribly weak. They can't do anything. So if you want actual pressure on the opponent's board, you need to have some big guys. So I went with Babanuki for flavor instead of playing, Virgo or something. The argument to play King is there, but he is a 6-drop, so he is completely different in what he does. This is more of, for that early game pressure. You can't play King on your 3rd turn. You just can't do it. So I'm playing Babanuki so I can just slap it down. He also has guard, so I always like having guard. The last big boy we play is 2 copies of Mihawk. So I wanted some removal in the deck because, all of the small guys are vanillas, and the other cards are pretty much consistency cards and defensive cards. So there's no hard removal spells in the deck. So that's why I went with 2 copies of Mihawk. Not only is he a big boy, but he pretty much clears most things, period, in the game. There's only a few cards that he just can't get rid of. Like the 8-drop Kid and stuff, which is, it's terrible for this deck anyway. You need to completely change your game plan and just kind of beat face in that matchup. But that comes with experience. But yeah, just having a little bit of removal as a surprise factor is just always nice. In red, it outs the Rush Luffy. In green, it gets rid of Basil Hawkins. It gets rid of the 7-drop blocker Kid, the 5-drop blocker Laws. In purple, it just puts King and Queens on the bottom of the deck, like you don't even care about them. Mihawk is just doing Mihawk things. He's a great guy. So we're actually only playing 5 defensive events, which is why I said you can, mess around with the Mihawk and a couple other cards if you want to put more cards, because I'm not playing Bolo Breath. I'm not playing Blast Breath in this deck, which, could be a mistake, but, it's a fantastic card. I just didn't fit it in for this initial build, really. So we're playing 3 copies of Level of Beam and 2 copies of Overheat. It could also be a 4th Level of Beam. The only reason I'm not playing 4 of this card is because I wanted to play 2 Overheat. That's really the only reason, or else this would just be a 4 of. So this card, if you don't know, with Crocodile, essentially just says draw 2 cards and give float 4K, which is incredible. Because, you pay 2, you give your guy 4K, and then you draw a card if you have 3 or less cards. And he draws a card if you have 4 or less cards. So when you play this card, if you have 3 or less, you draw, and then you'll have 4 and you draw. So this card essentially says block and attack and draw 2 cards. And it's recyclable with Miss All Sunday, like I said earlier, because she doesn't say anything specific, just says any event. Now, Overheat is a card that I just really enjoy trying to take advantage of. This card has a lot of things it can do, besides punishing the opponent, which is the first thing you think of. It says it gives you 4K and then return an active character with cost 3 or less to the owner's hand. So it can super punish the opponent by bouncing a potential attacker that turn, setting them back a bit. But that's not the real purpose of this card. The real purpose of this card is for you to take advantage of your own on-play skills. So you have 2 really good targets for this deck. You have Orochi, and you have Perona. So these are 2 cards that pretty much just sit on the board and do nothing after you play them. Like, let's be honest. For the most part, they're just sitting there for turns and turns and turns. You maybe get an attack in on a Bonnie, or you commit 3 Dawn to this so it can swing for 5. But because you're playing blue and you can play Overheat, you can pay 2, gain your 4K, bounce one of these, which one you want. You can search another Smile for it already, so you bounce the Orochi back to your hand, get a 2K counter, even if you don't want to play him again the search, you have a 2K counter, and then you also play it so that this is the 4th card in your hand, and then you draw a card also. So you get to recycle these on play skills, which is really nice. It's really easy to set up. So that's why I like playing the 2 Overheat. I wouldn't play any more because you need to have these on field first for this to be completely useful, so that's why there's a small count of it. But when it comes up, and it's really nice. And when you do catch your opponent with this, you just feel really good. But yeah, like I said, you can easily put in a 4th of this, of the Level of Beam, and then Blast Breath is a really, really good card. And, I'd maybe fit in a copy of it. Might take out, like, the Mihawk for 1 Blast Breath, just so I can play that card, because it's so good. But that is the profile for the Smile deck of all things that we did really well with at locals. And if you have any questions about the deck, go ahead. Feel free to ask whatever you want in the comments. I try my best to respond to, all your guys' comments. It really when you comment, it makes me feel good. You're like, oh, you're actually watching the video, and you're like, oh, let me ask him something. And so I try to respond as best as I can. If there's a deck you want to see me try and make, I can put that on my list of things to do. The next like meme deck I'm trying to work on, meme deck, is the Kazuki Odin deck. I want to try that out. That's for sure. I'm also going to try a more serious version of this deck because I've tried, this is just a joke pet deck. I don't take this deck seriously at all. I just wanted to play it. And then the Baroque's work version was more along the lines of like a more serious deck, but it's not like I don't think it's the goo, I guess, for this deck. There's definitely a more competitive version of this deck that I want to try. And other than that, if you watched to the end of the video, I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.